I am with you always until the end of the world.
Today, we're going to learn something else. Every week, God is so wonderful. He's teaching us new things to learn, and just so we can get closer to Him so that we can live triumphant, victorious lives. How many of you work in this hall? How many of you work, have jobs? Come on, don't be shy. Put your hands up. Good, a lot of you. Many of you work. So all of you have experienced an interview, I'm sure. You've been to an interview. When you go to an interview, can you just do anything you want? Can you go unprepared? Can you barge into the manager's or the interviewer's office and you can sit with your, legs folded and take a cigarette out and start to smoke in front of him and no, right? Yes or no? No, there is a protocol. There is a particular approach in which, there's a way in which you dress up, the way in which you wait until he asks you in, the way in which you greet him, and the way in which you sit, the way in which you listen, the way in which you respond. So there is a particular way in which you approach so you can get that job, right? And if you do everything right, you can be assured that you'll get the job or at least get a second interview. Brothers and sisters, it is the same with our God. There is a way in which we approach Him. All of us have problems, right? All of us have difficult issues that we deal with. Financial problems. We have illness sometimes in the family or with ourselves. We have conflicts in families, disputes. We have all sorts of issues. And we know that God has an answer. God has something to say to us about that problem. And He is the answer to that problem. But how do we approach Him? How do we go to Him? How do we get that answer? There is a right way. And we're going to learn that right way today through a story that appears in the first three Gospels, the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. But I'm going to take the story from the book of Mark, chapter 10, verses 46 through 52. We don't have it displayed, but don't worry, just listen. Sometimes the things on the screen can be distracting. So follow me along as I read the story. They came to Jericho. As he and his disciples and a large crowd were leaving Jericho, Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, a blind beggar, was sitting by the roadside. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout out and say, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Many sternly ordered him to be quiet, but he cried out even more loudly, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stood still and said, "Call him here." And they called the blind man, saying to him, "Take heart, get up, he is calling you." So throwing off his cloak, he sprang up and came to Jesus. Then Jesus said to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" The blind man said to him, "My teacher, let me see again." Jesus said to him, "Go, your faith has made you well." Immediately, he regained his sight and followed him on the way. This is the word of God. So I'm sure you've heard this story before in church or somewhere else. Maybe you've read it yourself. And I love this story. So before we look into what the story teaches us, let us examine in a little more detail. Jesus was passing through a town called, I want a little interaction because it's very cold here. If you speak, you'll be warm. Today I brought a jacket. Next week I'm going to bring a sweater and a jacket because I'm still cold. So Jesus was traveling through the town of Jericho. Have you heard of this town before in the Old Testament? And what name comes to your mind when you think of Jericho? Joshua, very good. So that tells me you know the story. Very good. Jericho was a nice town. Herod had rebuilt it and made it look very nice. It was like a tourist spot. And people traveling from Galilee to Jerusalem often passed through Jericho. It was a nice town. Now, we hear about Jesus traveling all these places, right? From Galilee, he went to Jerusalem. We think, maybe he went from I don't know, people who live in Dubai, from Karama to Bardubai or something. But sometimes we don't take note of the distances and the geography. Galilee is up in the north, and Galilee to Jerusalem is about 193 kilometers. That's very long. Actually, it's longer than Dubai. The distance from Dubai to Abu Dhabi is, I think, about 150, 155 kilometers. So you can imagine. And they had to travel on foot in those days. So that was a long distance Jesus was traveling. Now, second significant thing to know is that Jesus was traveling. He had traveled this particular route many times. Every time a special festival in Jerusalem, Jesus and his disciples would travel. Many of the Jewish people living in the north would travel to Jerusalem through Jericho. And today, Jesus was traveling through this town for the last time, because after this, he would enter first in triumph. Remember, Jesus entered Jerusalem in triumph on the colt, and everybody praised him and acclaimed him, but soon Jesus would be betrayed, arrested, and he would be crucified. So this was his last time going through here. Something else was happening as Jesus was traveling. In Jericho, there were many beggars. This was common because this was a well-traveled route, and beggars would position themselves in these strategic locations so that they could take advantage of the generosity of the travelers. Especially if you're going to a feast, you're in a good mood, right? You're really generous to the beggars on the way because you want to get there with the right mindset. So the beggars knew that, so they would line themselves up. And among the beggars, there was one special beggar, a blind beggar named Bartimaeus. There's two words in this word, Bartimaeus. Bar in Hebrew means son of. Timaeus is the name of a person. So his name was actually the son of Timaeus. And often in encounters with Jesus, we do not see names being mentioned. We just hear a blind man or a leper or a lame man. But in this case, this man must have been special because not only his name, but even his father's name is mentioned in the story. And indeed, this is a very special story. Now, what was life like for beggars, especially blind beggars? It was a very terrible life. The reason for that is, as a blind person, there were not any facilities available for you for training, for gaining a skill. You couldn't become a carpenter or a mechanic or a farmer. So you were left with only one thing, to beg on the streets, the mercy of other people's generosity. And people made fun of you. It was no fun to be a beggar. They mocked you. often it was, if you were blind, especially if you were born blind or been blind from your childhood, it was considered to be a curse of God, either for your own sins or for the sins of your ancestors. So it was a terrible thing. It was like an affliction or oppression, because people always reminded you that you were cursed, and they made fun of you, they mocked at you. So life for Bartimaeus was no fun at all. And I'm sure he often wondered when his deliverance would come. I'm sure he hoped in his heart, one day something good is going to happen. One day I'll be delivered. One day I would be able to see. I'm sure he had hope in his heart. And then, being in Jericho, everybody had heard about Jesus, about the things he did in far off Galilee and Jerusalem, about his miracles, about how he had given sight to the blind even, about how one particular blind man, he had mixed some clay with his spittle and touched the eyes of this man and made him see. And that memory was in his mind, and he wondered, wouldn't that be nice if that was me? Wouldn't it be nice if Jesus was come around into Jericho and do the same for me? So you can imagine how thrilled he was when he heard this loud noise coming towards him of a large crowd. And he began to ask the people around him, what is this noise about? What's this commotion about? And they said, Jesus of Nazareth is passing through. And when he heard that, he was excited. He was thrilled. He was ecstatic. He said, this is it. This is the moment I've been hoping for. This is the moment I've been praying for. And he believed in his heart that Jesus could heal him of his blindness. And so he got up and he started to shout. What did he shout? Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Now, that was very significant what he said, because at that time, to say to somebody, Son of David, meant only one thing: Messiah, Christ. And he shouted, Jesus, Son of David, Christ, Messiah, have mercy on me. And people started to tell him, discourage him, and say, stop shouting. Stop calling his name. You're irritating us. You're bothering us. You're a beggar. Sit where you are. You should know where your place belongs, here. But he wouldn't listen. He was persistent. He kept crying out until his words came upon the ears of Jesus. And Jesus heard him, and he stopped. He took notice of Bartimaeus, and he told the men, go fetch him. And now the people who were pushing him away actually went to fetch him, because they wanted to do something nice for Jesus. Suddenly people who were like, shut up, were going, hey, cheer up, he wants you there. Has that ever happened to you? Somebody who pushes you away, and somebody really important tells them, go get that one. Oh, okay. Now suddenly they change towards you. So these people suddenly change and say, oh, we get to be popular through the beggar now, So they go, Bartimaeus drops his cloak, and he runs towards Jesus. And he's going towards Jesus. You can imagine he's blind, he cannot see, but he can feel the presence of Jesus. He can feel the presence of the Messiah. And then he approaches Jesus, continuing to, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And I can picture Jesus lifting him up and asking him, Bartimaeus, what do you want me to do for you? And Bartimaeus says, Jesus, teacher, let me see again. I don't know. I don't remember what it's like to see. I don't know what it is like to see the faces of people, to see the trees and the flowers, and to see the people I love, to see my brother and sister, to see my mother. I don't know what it's like to see you. Can I see again? And Jesus says to him, Bartimaeus, your faith has made you well. Go on your way. And Bartimaeus is thrilled. He can see. At first, the vision is a bit blurry, and then it gets clearer and clearer. And the first thing he sees is the face of Jesus Christ, the Messiah, the Son of David. He was crying out to him. And he jumps, and he's thrilled. He's like a little child. He's running about and shouting, and he's so thrilled. He's so thrilled. And the next thing he does he go home? He follows Jesus. The Bible doesn't tell us exactly how far he followed, but we can imagine. Maybe he followed him all the way to Bethany, where Jesus was going to be staying. Maybe he stayed there and followed him all the way to Jerusalem. And maybe he witnessed the crucifixion. Maybe he was one of those people in the upper room during the coming down of the Holy Spirit. Beautiful story, isn't it? The story teaches us some valuable lessons on how to approach God and get what we need, to get the answer to our problems. There are 7 lessons. There are 7 lessons. I want you to pay attention, because this is going to change your life, the way you approach God and the way you get answers to your problem. The first thing Bartimaeus teaches us, the first thing is believe. You have to have faith. The Bible says in Hebrews chapter 6, Hebrews chapter 11, without faith, it is impossible to please God. Without faith, you cannot please God. If you come to God, you have to believe that He's God. You have to believe that He can help you. If you don't have faith, you cannot please Him. You cannot even approach Him. There's no point. And what is faith? Again, Hebrews chapter 11 tells us what faith is. Faith is the confidence of the things we hope for and the assurance of the things that we cannot see. It is the confidence of the things we hope for. So to have faith, you have to have hope. Do you think Bartimaeus had hope? He had a lot of hope. Ever since he heard that there is a man named Jesus of Nazareth who is healing people, he believed one day it is going to be my turn. He had hope that one day he was going to see, and then he was going to receive the honor that he deserved, because he was living a life of indignity. He had hope. So all of us need to have hope before we can have faith. And hope is one of the 3 virtues, the theological virtues the church tells us, along with faith, hope, faith and charity. Faith, hope, and charity are the 3 virtues we need to have in order to live like the children of God. And Bartimaeus had hope, and he had faith. Now, one more thing. Faith is the key. The faith is the key for what? We live in a material world, right? We see and touch. But there is a world that we cannot see, and that is the world that is unseen. And the Bible tells us that what we see was created from things that are not seen. So the things that are not seen are greater, and the answers to our prayers comes from a place that is unseen, where God is. And what is the key to getting into that place, that heavenly place? Faith. Faith is the key through which we unlock the windows of heaven. And that's what Bartimaeus did. So when we approach God, we need to have faith, which is the key to opening the windows of heaven. Lesson number 2. Bartimaeus teaches us that faith alone is not enough. We need to take action. What did Bartimaeus do? He sat there, I believe, I hope, I'm sure something good is going to happen. No. He got up. He got up. We have to take action. Faith without the action is like a car. You know, it's loaded up with fuel, but it's sitting there. Until you get in the car, you put the key in, you turn it on, you put it in drive mode, and you put your foot on the pedal, that car ain't going anywhere. In the same way, faith, unless it moves into action, is not taking you anywhere. It is very important that once we believe, we take action. There are so many people who have so many problems. I know personally people who are struggling. And then we will give them a call and we say, why don't you come to their prayer meeting on Wednesday to Jebel Ali? And then you will hear all sorts of excuses. I'm really busy, I'm taking care of my grandchildren, I don't have transportation. That's one set of people. And then I will talk to other people who come to the meetings. Where do you live? And I live in Sharjah. You come to Jebel Ali prayer meeting all the way from Sharjah? Yes. And some who don't have transportation. but they talk to someone or the other and they find a ride, or some of them take the metro and they take the bus. Some of them walk from the metro or from the bus to the church. Another kind of people, people with faith who turn that into action because they want God to respond to them. Let me give you an example of faith in action. Imagine I'm doing this teaching and the sacristan walks along and he comes and gives me a little note. And I take the note and I start to read. We have just discovered a bomb in the church next to the altar. It might explode at any minute. We have informed the police that they're on their way. And I take the note and I put it down and I continue with my teaching. And the rest of you sit there, continue listening to me. Did any of us believe what's in that note? Absolutely not. If we believed in what's in that note, all of us should pack up our things and rush out of the church, right? So if we believe, we would take action. I'll give you another example. In the Bible, there is a scripture. Jesus said, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." How? Pressed down, shaken together, overflowing shall be poured into your lap. With the measure that you used to give, you will also be given. So Jesus is telling you, if you give to me, if give to God, to the work of God, it will be multiplied, and there will be no room in your lap to hold it. Now, if you believe that word, if you really had faith, next time you go to church, you would be very generous at the offering. You wouldn't be dropping 1 dirham coins in there. Because you believe. You believe that that money that you put in the offering is going to multiply. But if you don't believe, you're going to be stingy because you really don't believe what God is saying is true. Imagine if an investor comes to you and says the same thing. You put in 10 dirhams, it'll be 1,000 dirhams in 6 months. Would you continue to put 1 dirham in that investment? Never. Because you'd believe and you would give it a try. So often we do not believe the word and we do not act on it. Therefore, it's no longer faith. So we have to believe and we have to act on it. That's what Bartimaeus did. He could have sat there and said, I'm fine here. God is going to come. He's going to listen. Or he could have gone and just been feeling sorry for himself and done nothing. But he took action. Number 3, he called out to God. He called out to God. Why do we need to call out to God? Is he deaf? Doesn't he know that we have needs? Does the Bible say we need to call out to God? Romans chapter 10, verse 13. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. Psalm 91, verse 15. He will call on me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him, and I will honor him. We need to call on our God because we have freedom. God will not impose himself on us. We need to call out to him. How do we call out to God? We call out to God in prayer. Prayer is the means by which we call and get attention of God. There are different types of prayer. Do you know how many types of prayer there are? 4 types of prayer. Personal prayer, family prayer, group prayer, and community prayer. This is a group prayer. When you go for Mass, that's community prayer. When you pray the rosary with your family or say the grace before meals, that's family prayer. Personal prayer is one-on-one. Jesus and you, God the Father and you, Holy Spirit and you. It's one-on-one. Which prayer is engaging in? Personal prayer. There were a lot of people around, but it was he who was calling out to Jesus, and Jesus was responding to him. Jesus didn't say, Bartimaeus, bring all your beggar friends. Let me do a prayer and heal all of you. No, only Bartimaeus cried out. Only Bartimaeus is going to get the response, and he's going to get a personal response. It is between God and you. It's a personal. So you need to call out to him for God to answer you. The fourth thing that Bartimaeus did that we need to learn on how to approach God. What was that? He acknowledged him for who he was. What did Bartimaeus call Jesus? Son of David. He didn't say Jesus, Joseph and Mary's son, Jesus the carpenter, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus the healer. Jesus, son of David, as I said. If you read Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1, Jeremiah chapter 23, there is a prophecy about Jesus that he was going to come from the lineage of David. So he could only be the Messiah. So when he referred to Jesus as son of David, he was acknowledging him as Savior, as Christ, as Messiah. When we go to Jesus, we need to acknowledge him for who he is. Not somebody who heals other people, not somebody who is somebody else's God, but my God, my Lord, who is going to heal me. He's my healer. Does God care whether we acknowledge him or not? Does he care? As long as we have faith and we have hope and we call on him and we go to him, can he not answer us? He does care. He does care. Do you remember the scene when Jesus asked his disciples, "Who do people say the Son of Man is? Who do people say the Son of Man is?" And what did the disciples say? Some say you are Elijah, some say Jeremiah, some say John the Baptist, and the list goes on. And then Jesus said, "Who do you say I am? Who do you say I am?" And what did Peter say? "You are the Son, you are the Messiah, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Oh, I love that. When I read that, I just want to go run and hug Peter. Way to go, Peter. You really deserve to be the first pope, the head of the church. What an answer. But you know what? What is even more impressive is the response of Bartimaeus. You know why? Because Peter was with Jesus. He had spent a lot of time with Jesus. He had heard all the sermons. He had seen the wonders. He had touched Jesus. It was only natural that Peter would acknowledge him as the Savior, as the Messiah. But Bartimaeus was far away in Jericho. He had only heard, and he was blind. He couldn't see. And yet, in his heart, he believed. Many wise men did not believe, did not acknowledge Jesus as the Savior. Many wise men, many learned men who had studied the law, studied the prophets, did not believe that Jesus was the Messiah. In fact, many accused him for doing miracles, performing miracles through the power of Satan, and thus blasphemed against the Holy Spirit. And some were very prejudiced. They just couldn't get beyond the fact that Jesus is a mere carpenter's son from Nazareth, not from a famous town where learned people come from. Do we have that problem? Are we prejudiced towards preachers and priests and ministers? Do we judge them based on how they speak, their accents, whether they come from big ministries or small ministries? What happens when we prejudge people? We miss out on the message and we miss out on the Messiah. So it is very important that when we go and approach Jesus, that we acknowledge him for who he is, because it is important to him and it is important to you. What is the fifth thing that Bartimaeus did that we need to learn? What did he say? "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Who asked for mercy? Only somebody who has done something wrong. Only sinners ask for mercy. Bartimaeus humbled himself. He humbled himself in front of his God. Often we have problems. We have an illness. We have financial problems, all kinds of things. And we're so caught up in these things. We're caught up in self-pity. We are caught up in the injustice of it all. Bartimaeus had a reason. He could have said, you know what? Justice needs to be done, and I'm going to go to Jesus and the Messiah, and I'm going to get my justice. He could have approached Jesus with an attitude of entitlement. Instead, Bartimaeus was humble. You know, Psalm 51 says, a humble and contrite spirit you will not spurn, O Lord. Bartimaeus had a humble and contrite spirit. He wanted to receive his vision. He wanted to be healed of his blindness. But he was aware that this was a Messiah, not just a healer. He has come not just to heal my eyes, my vision, but also my soul. Bartimaeus acknowledged that his soul also needed to be healed. And even he knew, even though his illness may not have been a result of great sin or the sin of his ancestors, he knew everything was not right with his soul. And he acknowledged that he needed forgiveness. And he said, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. When we approach God, when we approach Jesus, we need to have the attitude of a sinner. Lord, have mercy on me. Not just heal my body, but heal my soul. We are so caught up with the things of this world. We're so caught up with the things of the body, but we don't pay attention to our spirit. And God cares about our spirit. Jesus cares about our spirits. So we need to acknowledge him for who he is, and we need to ask for his mercy with an attitude of a sinner. You know the story about the Pharisee and the publican? Pharisee came to the temple and he went straight up the front row and he knelt down and he prayed. And he said, God, thank you that I'm not a sinner like that publican. The publican was at the back of the temple. He was too embarrassed to approach the front of the temple, and his prayer was, Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner. Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner. Who do you think pleased God, the Pharisee or the publican? Yes, it was the publican, even though he was a worse sinner than the Pharisee. The sixth lesson that we learned from Bartimaeus, after he acknowledged God for who he is, and after he humbled himself and asked for forgiveness, he went and asked Jesus for what he wanted. What does the Bible say? What does Jesus say? Ask, and it shall be given to you. Knock, and it shall be opened. Seek, and you shall find. Why does God ask us to ask him? Doesn't he know he's God? He knows everything. Why doesn't he just give it? You have children? How many of you have children? Good. Do you just give your children what they need? Do you ever listen to what they need? Of course you do. In fact, sometimes you wait for them to ask you, even though you know that's what they need. Why? Why? Because that's a relationship. When they ask you, it gives you an opportunity to show your love for them, to show your authority as well, because they're helpless, right? They're dependent on you. It's the same with our God. He's not going to impose himself. He wants a relationship with us. So he wants us to come to him and ask him. And when we ask him, we give him an opportunity to be God our Father, to show his love for us, to show his power, and to show his glory. When Bartimaeus went and asked Jesus to see once again, he gave Jesus the opportunity to show his love and compassion for Bartimaeus. He also gave Jesus the opportunity to show his power and to heal, that he was truly the Son of God. And he gave Jesus the opportunity to show his glory, Because everybody around there, the crowds, saw what Jesus did, and many probably came to believe. If they had any doubt, that was cleared for them when they saw the miracle. Finally, the seventh lesson from Bartimaeus. What is that? He asked, now before I go to that, one more thing. When we ask God, when we go to God and ask Him, tell Him what we need to be sincere. Bartimaeus was sincere. What did Bartimaeus ask? Lord, let me see again. Did he pray for all the blind men? Lord, there are so many blind people. Please heal all of them. Lord, let there be peace in the world, peace in Jerusalem, peace in Jericho. Sometimes we are not genuine with God. If you're approaching God and in your mind you're thinking, I have a sick child and I want that child to be well, don't pray for Syria. God knows. You're not really interested in Syria. Your first concern is your child. Pray for the child. It is good to make noble prayers. All of us would like to pray like Solomon did, don't we? God comes to us and say, what do you need, my child? And I say, God, give me wisdom so that I might know right from wrong and I might govern my people with wisdom. It would be great to do that, only if it's honest and sincere, and that's truly what you want. God knows your heart. So when you go to Him, be straightforward. Ask Him for what's on your mind. Later on, you can intercede for others. You can pray for peace in Syria. But first, tell Him what's on your mind, because He knows already what's on your mind. Be sincere. Finally, the last lesson. What did Bartimaeus do after he got what he wanted? He followed Him. This is something, brothers and sisters, that really amazed me. Most of us, when we go to God and we get what we want, we so fall in love with what we've received, we forget the giver. We take our healing and off we go, back to our old ways, until something else happens, and then we need God again. Think about this. If you had a chance to own a bank, versus only own an account in a bank, which would you want? The account or the bank? You would want to own a bank. When you have Jesus, when you have God, when you have a relationship with God, you have everything in Him. You can ask whatever you wish because you have a tight relationship with Him. Bartimaeus figured that out. He knew that Jesus was the answer. And he wanted to be with Jesus. He wanted to know Jesus. You know, as I was preparing for this teaching, I came across an article. There was a book that's been published a couple of years ago, I think. It's called The Prayer of Jabez. And it's a book about how to get what you want, how to get blessings from God. And you know, this book has been marketed so heavily. It's printed as books, there's DVDs, there's T-shirts, all sorts of paraphernalia associated with it. And the sad part, the author of this article, he said the sad part here is that, you know, this book, which teaches you how to get blessings from God, is more popular than the books on how to know God. And isn't that what happens to most of us? Majority of the people who go to retreats, who go for missions, who go for various healing sessions, and why do they go there? What do they go there for? They go there for some particular need, either a physical need, a spiritual need. And when they get that, and if they were to get that on the first day of the retreat, and if they had a chance to leave, most people would probably leave. But they forget the giver. The whole idea is to build the relationship. How would you feel if you went to your child's school and your daughter or your son introduced you to their teacher saying, let's say you're a mother. This is the lady that cooks for me and does my laundry. How would you like that introduction versus, this is my mother? We need to acknowledge God. We need to acknowledge God for who He is. We need to have a relationship with Him. He needs to be our God. He needs to be our Father, not just someone who answers prayers and gives us the things that we want. So the 7 lessons, quickly, let me go through them. First thing, what did Bartimaeus do? He believed. He believed. What is the second thing? He took action. He got up. He didn't just sit there and hope good things will come to him. He took action. Number 3, what did he do? He called out on God. That's what we do through prayer. Fourth, what did he do? He acknowledged God for who he was. When we go to Mass, do we acknowledge Jesus is present in the Eucharist? When we go for confession, do we acknowledge this is Jesus sitting here waiting to forgive us and give us the graces? Do we really acknowledge him? After he acknowledged him, what did he do? He humbled himself. 6, what did he do? He asked for what he wanted. He asked for what he wanted. And then 7, having received, what did he do? Did he run after the gift, his vision? Oh, I can see now. I've got so many things to do. See you, Jesus. All the best in Jerusalem. I hope the crucifixion goes well. No, he followed him. He made him a permanent Lord and Savior of his life. Brothers and sisters, this is the message of God for us today. That we don't just go to him. We go to him in a certain way because he's our God. He's taught us how to approach him. And he's generous, he's merciful, he's waiting to heal us. He's waiting to give us what we want, the answer that we want. But we need to approach him the right way. And Bartimaeus has taught us that right way. I hope you can put that into practice and apply that and receive the blessing that you need from Jesus. Amen.